So we're gonna go over a bunch, or several, I should say. We're gonna go over several anchored variations. We're gonna look at cleans, we're gonna look at high pulls, we're gonna look at snatches. I'm gonna mix up anchoring the weight heavy and light, and also using dumbbells versus kettlebells, just depending upon what you have access to. Really, the main purpose is to add weight to the explosive hip extension here to work on the power development without necessarily having to clean, high pull, or snatch the weight heavier, all right? So we want to train the hips to extend through the heavier weight without necessarily having to do a heavier clean, high pull, or snatch, and then we'll be able to work up to that. So you also don't have to have the weights be even. We can have an odd number or two odd weights. We can have the same weights. It'll be totally your choice, but we still want to be able to get set up into this hip hinge. You might take a slightly wider stance. First one I'm going to show is we're going to go anchored clean. So we're going to keep the kettlebell down, and then we're going to clean with the dumbbell. So we have that hip hinge with a slight bend in the knee, with the dumbbell clean. We're shrugging at the shoulder, keeping the weight really close to the torso. Then we can go into high pulls. So we're going to keep the kettlebell anchored again. That means it just stays down. And then we're working on that hip and knee extension, nice, quick, and explosive, bringing the weight up to shoulder height. Then we're going to go to snatches. So we're going to hinge at the hips. Same thing, hinge at the hips, slight bend in the knee. Right side's going to stay anchored. I'm going to explode and lead to the overhead position with the dumbbell hand. This could also be a kettlebell, but remember, from the ground, overhead, nice fluid motion. Elbow gets fully extended, and then I'm going to recommend dropping it down to the shoulder rather than straight down from overhead. You could do the same thing with kettlebells. So if we have our hip extension, we're going to anchor on one side, clean on the other, no dumbbell or no shrug on the kettlebell clean. Just keep it nice close to the torso. And then high pulls, straight up. Much smarter, easier perhaps to stick with that straight up and down variation. It's going to be very difficult to do the hiking back variation like a swing. So I'm going to say, stay with that straight up and down vertical path. And then the last one, anchored, and we're going to snatch, punch through. Use your breathing. Remember, the hips are working more than they're used to with the weight that you have. The other tip on this is if you typically do, let's say 35 pound or 16 kilo snatches or cleans, you might not want that to be the weight that you start with and then add an anchor weight to. You might want to scale that back down a couple of pounds so that you're not doubling the weight of that hip extension, all right?